So first of all, thank you to Pastor John. We have been talking for a minute. He has been encouraging us, me and my wife and his wife. So it's very special. So it's really good. We appreciate you, and thank you to Compass Bible Church as well for letting God use you to do kingdom's work. And this morning, before we get into the sermon, we also want to say thank you to my wife as well. I went to Dallas Seminary, and me and my wife, we actually married in Dallas Seminary 8 years ago. And God sent us back here to Naples, because when I first came to America, I came to Naples with my family. And I went to Lily High School, and I went to college and come back. So we come right back and do ministry here in Naples, Florida. So we thank God for that. Also, we want to thank the One Vision Bible Church team as well. We are a small team building up. So you guys are going to see some slides. We used to meet at this school in Vanderbilt. Yep, that's the school we used to meet at. We used to do vision casting. But because of the virus, of course, we can't go back to the school. Not until the students are back and they know everybody is safe. But God is actually opening another door, and we will be meeting as a church at a location not too far from Golden Gate from another church. So if everything goes as planned, we should at least launch our online services let's say second week of July. So pray for that. We're looking forward to it. It's going to be a big blessing. So, and again, thank you for being here. And we're going to get into the word. I'm going to pray, and we're going to get it started. I don't know, maybe 2 hours, but we'll see. Just keep praying. That'll go too long. Father God, thank you for your grace. Thank you because you are awesome. Thank you for who you are. We can say with confidence, we are who we are today because of you, because of your power, because of your grace. And today, Lord, we are opening your word, and we know you will speak to us because you have done it in the past, and you are doing it not right now, and you will continue to do it in the future. The reason why I know you will do it, it is because it is not for our glory, but it is because of your glory. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. I grew up in a big family. My mom and my dad were married, and they had 11 children. Yeah, tell me about it. And that just from my mom's side, because my dad married my mom. My dad had more than 11 children because he had some other children outside of marriage. Yeah, my dad was a player back in the day. He was not a believer and still not a believer till this day. So pray for him. But my mom was a believer. Me and my brothers, we grew up in church because of my mother. We became believers because of my mother at a very young age. But my dad left Haiti to come to the U.S. by boat. Yes, by boat. Strange, right? In search of a better life. Now, it took him a long time before he could get his papers. So back then, he was struggling to make ends meet. He could not find regular work. So my mother, had to do the best that she could to make sure we were well taken care of. And she did a good job financially, educationally, emotionally, and spiritually. My mom gave her best to us Financially. I remember my dad could not always send money back home because things were hard. But my mother had to pick up the pieces. My mother had to become a farmer when she needed to. My mother had to borrow money to feed us when she needed to. And my mother sometimes had to give up her plate to make sure we were fed every day. So financially, I can tell you, my mother really gave her best. And not only did my mother give her best financially, my mother also did give her best educationally. And may I tell you, my mother did not know how to read and write. But one thing that my mother was passionate about was to make sure each one of her children received an education. She was passionate about that. I remember I was the one, when I was in elementary school in Haiti, I was the one teaching my mother A, B, C. I was the one teaching my mother how to count. 1, 2, 3. I was able to do that because of her. And I could, talking about it now, I can see us on the floor learning, talking, and teaching because my mother made it possible. Because even though she did not have an education, but she did whatever she could to make sure each one of her children received a proper education. She gave her best for our education. And not only my mother did give her best in us financially, she did give her best in us educationally, but also she did give her best in us emotionally. You imagine 11 children, a single mother, raising 11 children by herself. Can you imagine the emotional strength required to take care of all them kids? When all them kids are fighting against each other, it was my mother who was there. When the food was done, and there is no food in my house, let me tell you, it was my mother. When we are being sending back from school, in Haiti, if you're in school and you cannot pay the school tuition, they send you back home. And at home, it was my mother who was there to give us the emotional support that needed to make it through the situation. So yes, my mother gave her best financially, educationally, and also emotionally. And finally, my mother did give her best to us spiritually. I mentioned my dad was not a believer and still not a believer till this day, so pray for him. But we grew up in church because of my mother. We became believers ourselves at a young age because of my mother. I remember when it's church time, I knew exactly when it was church time because this is the time for me to hide. My mother, with her motherish instinct, knew exactly where to find us and to make sure we went to church. Because spiritually, she wanted to make sure, yes, financially we were fed. Yes, educationally we were fed. Yes, emotionally we were fed. But most importantly, spiritually, she wanted to make sure each one of her children were being fed. She prayed with us, and when it was time, she led us to Christ. Yes, my mother gave her best financially, educationally, emotionally, and spiritually. You can realize I'm talking about my mother in past tense term. The reason being is because my mother died and did not really enjoy us and who we become today, especially whom we become today in Christ. It is not just about my mother. It is also about you who are listening to me today and you who are listening to me online or wherever you are. It is also about you. Remember, moms, dads, brothers, uncles, sisters, remember, you give your best as well. You give your best in somebody's life. And I can tell you, most of you, if not all of you, you are who you are today because somebody else gave their best so that you can be who you are today. You are who you are today because of somebody. Just after a little bit over a year, Compass Bible Church is what it is today because of you. Because you give your best to make it what it is today. You give your best in your family to make your family what it is today. You give your best in your community to make sure your community it is what it is today. And you give your best in your country as well to make sure that your country is what it is today. But let me tell you something. When you give your best, you don't always see the result. But that does not mean the result is not there. Right now, we have been dealing with a very difficult time in our country. You know, everybody's afraid to talk about it, but racism, it's a big dilemma in our country at this time. And it is, which has been built up over years and over time, and right now people feel like they can't take it no more. But let me tell you something. It is what you do today that will make a difference on improving the racism dilemma in America. It is what you do today by opening your church to ethnic groups just like us. It is what you do today by opening your church by supporting ethnic groups just like us that will improve the race dilemma in America. Ethnic groups who don't look like you. Yeah, definitely don't look like you. I mean, definitely. But hold the same core values as you in advancing the kingdom of God forward. That's what will make the race dilemma. Yes, open dialogue and discussions with people who don't hold the same viewpoints. But in reality, deep down, we are all the same. We are all the same. I know the church wish to take a back seat, all right, to what's going on right now. I know the church wish to take a back seat to the race dilemma that is going on right now. Call it politics, call it what you want, but we as a church cannot take a back seat to the race dilemma that is going on right now. We cannot and we should not take a back seat. The church needs to be at the forefront of the discussion table, giving its best to improve relationship, to improve race relationship, and to improve common sense in America. Until the church steps up its game and do what needs to be done. Do not expect real change to take place. But let me give you a warning. Even when you do what you're supposed to do, even when you give your best, even when you work so hard, you may not always see the result. You may not always see the result. But that does not mean the result is not there. So give your best. That's why today we're going to be talking about giving your best to God. And no matter what you see as the result, giving your best to God. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. In Mark chapter 14, verses 3 to 9, that's the text we're going to see together. And we're going to see a woman, and she's going to come. She's going to walk through the door. And what she is going to do, as soon as she found her way to Jesus, she will give Jesus her best. The disciples, on the other hand, will say, "What are you doing? What's wrong with you?" The disciples will rebuke her harshly. But praise the Lord, Jesus will stand up for her. And that's what we are going to see. Now, this is why principle number one, we will tell you this. It is okay to find your way back to God as you are, but it is best to find your way back to God with your best. It is okay to be a come as you are church. Nothing wrong with that. Come as you are. And that's great. Make it your logo. Make it your whatever you want to make it. That's okay. Nothing wrong with that. But let me tell you, it is best to come, to find your way back to Jesus as your best. And as you give your best to God. This woman did exactly that. She found her way back to Jesus. As soon as she got there, she gave Jesus her best, just like my mother. She gave her best. Mark chapter 14, verse 3, we will see that. While he was in Bethany, talking about Jesus, reclining at the table in the home of Simon the leper, a woman came with an alabaster jar of very expensive perfume made of pure nard. She broke the jar and poured the perfume on his head, talking about on Jesus' head. Well, let's take a pause here. This woman gave Jesus her best. Number one, she walked through the door with an alabaster jar. An alabaster jar was a special jar that was made with special rocks and stuff like that. And very compact and not very hard at all. Translucent, a marble-like looking, a very special box. So she walked through the door with the best box she could find. She came with the best box. So what was inside the box? And it says, with very expensive perfume. Not some cheap knockoff over-the-counter perfume that you don't need. The best box with very expensive perfume. So she gave her best. She brought her best. So the box was great. The perfume was expensive. And number three, what was the perfume made of? Made of pure nard, which is an aromatic kind of smell enough to fill this whole place. So this perfume smells the best. She came with her best. The box was special. The perfume was expensive. And the smell of this perfume was out of this world. It does not end there. See what she did. The last line of verse 3. She broke the jar and put the perfume on his head. She broke it open. No, she didn't. Yes, she did. The special box, very expensive perfume, smelled really good. She broke it open and poured everything over Jesus' head. In other words, this woman did not just she did not just found her way to Jesus with her best. She gave Jesus the best she got. That's what we say. It is okay to find your way back to God as you are, but it is even better. It's best to find your way back to God with your best. And this woman did exactly that. Giving God your best, I am very in tune with this. And us as a church, especially One Vision Bible Church, we are really in tune when it comes to giving our best to God. Our mission statement is actually striving to be God's best by loving God, serving others, and making disciples. That's a mission statement. Striving, we are striving, we're pushing, we want to do whatever it takes, striving to be God's best by loving God, serving others, and making disciples. We are not satisfied on just coming to God and stay as we are. We come as we are, but we are not satisfied on staying as we are, and we want to keep striving, moving forward, and give God the best that we got. And we know Compass Bible Church is already doing that because you are encouraging us. You're already doing that. You're already giving God your best. You're doing that because you are an encouragement to our ministry. And our vision, One Vision Bible Church, our vision is a multicultural, multiplying, Bible-believing church. Multicultural, multiplying, Bible-believing church displaying God's kingdom on earth. That's our vision. A multicultural, multiplying, Bible-believing church displaying God's kingdom on earth. Multicultural is more than one culture, more than one ethnic. Okay, we want to give God our best because on heaven, believe me, we're going to have black people, we're going to have white people, we're going to have brown people, we're going to have yellow people, and we're going to have all kinds of people in heaven. So get used to it. You better get used to it now. So this is our vision. So we want to make sure multicultural, multiplying means that we want to plant churches that plant churches. Just like Compass Bible Church is doing it, planting churches that plant churches. Why? Because based on everything that we read in theology school, the best way for the gospel to go forward is through church planting. That's the best way for people to come to Christ. It's the best way for people to find their way back to Christ is through church planting. So we want to do that. We want to get going doing that. Planting churches that plant churches. And we want to do that not for our own glory, not to count how many kids we got, how many churches we have, but to display God's kingdom on earth. For people to say, this is God's work, this is God's doing. So we want to give God our best because we know, although it is okay to find your way back to God as you are, it is best to find your way back to God with your best. And through Christ, this is what we are trying and will be doing. Now, things will not always be easy, and things will not always be easy. So let's go to principle number 2. Principle number 2 is this. Do not expect everyone to get it as you give your best to God. Let me repeat that again. Do not expect everyone to get it as you give your best to God. This woman came and she gave her best to God. She gave the very best that she got. The disciples should have applauded her. The disciples should have said, good job. Well done. Yay, where to go? Woo! All right? The disciples should be excited because remember, but no, the disciples did the exact opposite. They rebuked her harshly. Let's take a look. Mark 14, verses 4 and 5. Some of those present, talking about the disciples, were saying indignantly to one another, why this waste of perfume? It could have been sold for more than a year's wages and the money given to the poor. And they rebuked her harshly. No, they didn't. Yes, they did. Yes, they did. Talking about the disciples. Remember, the disciples were having dinner with Jesus. They were having fellowship with Jesus. Let me tell you something. The crowd followed Jesus because they wanted food and they wanted something in return, like a miracle. And Jesus always called them out for that, right? That's the crowd. But the disciples, they knew about Jesus' mission. They followed Jesus because they have a relationship with Jesus. After Jesus is, teaching the crowd, Jesus will pull them aside and tell them, hey, this is exactly what I meant to say. Jesus will explain them about the kingdom of God. The disciples were having fellowship with Jesus, eating and having fellowship. This was a special group. So we expected better from the disciples. You know what? In life, here's what's going to happen to you. The people you expect to applaud you will not applaud you. The people you expect to say good job will not say good job. The people you expect to stand up with you may not always standing up with you. When you give your best, when you work so hard to do it, you expect the people to really, the people who are closer to Jesus, if there's such a thing. I'm talking about pastors. I'm talking about pastor's wife. Oh, sorry, was. Yeah, those kind of people, the people that you see as your leaders. They're not always going to do it. I know because I'm speaking from experience. When I first came to America, I did not speak English. I never liked English. I never wanted anything to do with English. But I'm here. So I had to speak it. I had to try at least. I went to Lady High School and I tried so hard and I graduated from Lady High School and all great. But I'm still struggling mightily with the language. Because I came to the U.S. when I was 18 years old. I was almost 19 years old. In fact, the principal of Lady High School told me they should not have taken me because I was too old. 19 is for people to go to college, not in high school. But they had to take me because God was in it. All right. After just a year, so I was up to college. So I was still struggling mightily with the language. First year in college, remember that's still this day, and then that was in Kentucky. I was taking English 101. And then after spending all night long writing my paper, all night long, I worked so hard on it, at least according to myself. And I turned my paper over to my English teacher. And after she looked over my paper and she gave me a grade, and she said, Chris, the only reason I gave you a grade for this paper, the only reason I read your paper is because I had to give you a grade. But your paper was so bad, like, what are you doing? What? You're supposed to encourage me. You see, I don't really speak English. You're supposed to pull me up. Come on. I believe in you. I trusted you. I came to you. Why are you talking to me like this? You're tearing me apart. You are breaking me down. You just tell me, just never come back to the school again. Because I believed in you. This will happen to you too. People you believed in will try to tear you apart. People you trusted. I'm talking about church people. I'm talking about people from your job. And I'm talking about people wherever you are. Sometimes the people you trusted the most are the people who are tearing your life apart. What should you do? Just take my advice and you will be okay. Take my advice. Do not expect everyone to get it as you give your best to God. Do not expect everyone to get it because everyone will not get it. Do not expect everyone to get it as you give your best to God. Give your best to God and do not expect everyone to get it. And I want you to focus on principle number 3, which is giving your best to God is your legacy. Giving your best to God. Giving your best to God is your legacy. This is what you need to focus on. Giving your best to God, and you need to remember this, is your legacy. I am so glad Jesus stood up for that woman. I am so glad. The disciples was ready to tear her apart. The disciples was ready to cut her into pieces. But Jesus stood up for her. Jesus stood up for her, and I love it. Let's take a look. Mark chapter 14, verses 6 to 9. Jesus' first word was this: leave her alone, said Jesus. Leave her alone. I love Jesus. Why are you bothering her? What's your problem, you disciples? Leave her alone. She has done a beautiful thing. Yes, she did. She gave Jesus her best. The poor you will always have with you, and you can help them anytime you want, but you will not always have me. This is not a question of not helping the poor. This is a question of priority. Disciples, get your priorities straight. She did what she could, said Jesus. She poured perfume on my body beforehand to prepare for my burial. And listen to number 9, verse 9. Very important. Truly I tell you, wherever the gospel is preached throughout the world, what she has done will also be told in memory of her. What a legacy. Wherever the gospel is preached throughout the world, what she has done will always be told in memory of her. That's what you call a legacy. In memory of her. Give your best. You may not get people's approval, but give your best. Not everybody will say good job, but give your best. Pancras, Compass Bible Church, One Vision Bible Church, continue to give your best. Why? We are not doing it for people's approval. People approve it, thank you so much, and we really appreciate it. And it's really an encouragement to us when you do that. But if you don't do that, don't stop. Don't give up. Continue to give your very best. Why? Because you are in the business, you are in ministry to build a legacy. Do you know what Jesus said? We'll be told in memory of her. She is not here anymore, and we are still talking about her today because she gave her best. That's what you call a legacy. Continue to give your best. Remember why you are doing it. It's always great for people to encourage you, but it's best when you get it from the Lord. Continue to give your best because we are in business and ministry to build legacy. My mom died in 1998. She did not know how to read and she did not know how to write. Until this day, I'm still talking about her. Now you know about my mom. I am her legacy. She's not alive to see it, but when she was giving her best emotionally, financially, spiritually, educationally, it's so that I could be standing today in front of you to remind you each and every day, continue to give your best because you are building a legacy. This is why we are here. So legacy builders, remember that. It's okay to give your best. It's okay to find your way back to Jesus as you are. But it is best to find your way back to Jesus with your best. Second, do not expect everyone to get it as you give your best to God, because if the disciples did not get it, I will tell you, some church people will not get it. Some people from your workplace will not get it. Some people in your family will not get it. Some people in your country will not get it. But do not stop. Continue to give your best each and every day. And remember that you are building a legacy. So let me encourage you this morning. Keep going. Keep building. Keep encouraging. Keep doing what the Lord calls you to do, and you are doing it for His glory. And at the end, God will say, well done. I entrusted it to you. Well done, my brothers. Well done, my sisters. Because when I put you on this earth, I put you on this earth with the purpose of giving your best. And regardless of what happened to you, you did whatever you could to give your best. So great job, legacy builders. Compass Bible Church, thank you for giving God your best through One Vision Bible Church. And One Vision Bible Church, thank you for coming alongside of me as we look forward to continue to give God our best, because He deserves the glory. He deserves to be praised, and He deserves our best. Let's keep going. Let's keep building. Let's keep doing what God called us to do. Let's pray. Father God, thank you this morning for your word of encouragement. Thank you of all my brothers, all my sisters, Pastor John, his wife, my wife, Thank you, Lord, for Compass Bible Church and One Vision Bible Church as we come together and as we say the pandemic will not stop us. Nothing will stop us from giving our best for the glory of God. And this morning, as Compass Bible Church will pray for us and commission us and come alongside of us. Father, we say we will continue to give our best to build your kingdom. And we know it's not going to be easy, but we also know not everybody will be on board. But we also know and remember, Lord, we are in ministry to build a legacy. So thank you for helping us to be God's best through the Spirit. In Jesus' name, amen.